With the college football season just around the corner, I heard something today that is quite alarming, and I'm not sure why we're not talking about it more, but I will talk about it on here right now. All right, you guys, well, the college football season is just around the corner, and today on First Take, I heard Adam Schefter tell us about some news that should be really alarming for all of us about the future of college football and opportunities for these kids. So let's take a listen, let's take a look, and then we'll break it all down.
Pete Thamel on Get Up This Morning, and apparently there's a judge in Colorado that's going to issue a further ruling today, and I think there's a lot that's up in the air. What I do know from the NFL standpoint is that on Sunday, August 30th, that is the final NFL cutdown day. There are 32 NFL teams that essentially will be releasing 37 players each. That's 1,184 players. I don't know how many of those 1,184 players have used up all 5 years of their college eligibility, but I would venture to say probably not a lot. So you're talking about the prospect of multiple players who don't make it on the NFL rosters, then having the option, potentially, of going back to play in college football. And then there'll be cases where even a player who has the chance to join a NFL practice squad or even an active roster at the veteran minimum might opt to go back to college football. So college football programs now, as Pete Thamel alluded to, are actually looking at NFL teams and studying preseason tape to figure out how they might round out their roster. And if they're bringing in NFL players on September 1st, then that means they're cutting some players from their college programs. And we are living in an unprecedented Wild West world where it's gotten crazier and crazier. And this may be the single craziest moment that we've seen yet.
All right. So what he said there, where he said pretty much on September 1st, we could have colleges bringing in pretty much a new batch of players that just tried out for NFL teams and didn't make it, and start cutting some of the kids that are on the college football teams themselves. That is alarming. And that, to me, is something that I can't believe we're not talking about more. Now, again, just from this report, I'm not really sure if this is like a given and for sure going to happen or what exactly the deal is. But the fact that it's made its way to Adam Schefter talking about this on First Take is, a cause for concern. And here's my issue. I think we're starting to live in a world where if you don't get, your cake and eat it too, essentially, we look at you as a victim, as like, that's so sad. How come they can't get to do that and that as well? And that's just not how the world works. And also, when you treat situations like that, you are essentially causing victims in other areas. Let me explain myself. Say you have a guy that gets cut from an NFL team, right? He left college after 3 seasons and he has 2 more years left of eligibility. He tries out for the NFL team. Some 17-year-old kid got a scholarship to go play football at, let's just throw Ohio State out there, at Ohio State. His family, his life is changing. He's excited. He picked the college because he thought he'd have a chance. He's moved everything. School started pretty much for most of the colleges at this point. He's moved his life and everything out there in pursuit of this dream to be an NFL player, and also probably trying to get a degree on the side. He's a student athlete. And now suddenly Ohio State is going to tell you, hey, sorry, man, we're cutting you because we're bringing in this NFL tryout player that had his chance. He could have chosen to stay in college, but he chose to leave. It's not like he was forced out. He chose to leave. That's why he's got years of eligibility left. He chose to leave to go try out and leave being a student athlete. So he decided to leave that pursuit of the degree on the side to pursue this career of a professional football player. But now, because he didn't make it and he didn't get his dream wish, we're going to grant him to come back here and take your spot and take your dream, your route, your avenue towards that dream goal, because he will be better for our football team today than you will. That is just unfair. And if you want to say it's unfair to anybody or call somebody the victim, It's that 17 or 18-year-old that is about to be a freshman in college that might be getting cut, or a junior or a senior. It doesn't matter. Like, these guys that have left college to pursue a career in the NFL made their choice. And sometimes you got to live with those choices. That is life. And quite frankly, call me old school or whatever you want to call me, it bothers me that we live in this kind of society now where we don't, by doing that, by dumbing down, by making so many safety nets for people to, it makes it more okay for them to make bad decisions. You should be thinking about these decisions. These are important decisions. If you're a junior in college or a senior and you're considering leaving a good situation at a good school, a full scholarship, a chance to get a college degree as well, in your pursuit of an NFL career a year prior to graduation or 2 years prior to graduation, that is a tough decision. I'm not telling you it's an easy decision, but that is a tough decision. And that is one that you're going to have to live with. And now we're almost making it so it's one that you might not have to live with, because if it doesn't go well, then you can come back here and take somebody else's spot. Like, this is reserved for you, essentially. That ain't right. And and obviously not everyone that doesn't get on an NFL roster is going to have a college there ready to take them on. But also maybe they will, because if you try it out for an NFL team, chances are you're better than half the players that are on a smaller college. And if you have nothing else going for you, now you get to go back to school again, pursue that degree, and still play football and try to make a splash in a lesser division. At the end of the day, the point that you're taking the spot of somebody else who already earned that. Like, the timeline's done. And this is the direction that college, more obviously right now, we're speaking specifically about college football, has been going. And I think it's a big concern. And look, I'm not one of those people that is angry about the college players getting paid. I'm angry at the way it's gone down, if that makes any sense. Like, the problem with NIL for me is that now it's just treated almost like a professional league, and people are just holding on to the fact like, well, the colleges make so much money. Yeah, well, law firms also make so much money, and there are interns there. You know why? Because they are learning how to be a professional so that in the future they can do this job as a profession. Now, like I said, I don't mind the players getting paid in college. Like, if you're 17 years old and you can get paid for signing autographs, or you got a brand, or good for you, and go do that. Like, think back in the day when a guy like Johnny Manziel or whatever couldn't, or Reggie Bush, those guys, couldn't get any kind of endorsements or any kind of money based on their production. I think that's an issue, and I'm glad NIL has stepped in and allowed guys like that now to get paid. Now, look, don't get me wrong. Those guys still should have been held accountable, because at that time, that wasn't allowed. So the rules are the rules, and rules change over time, but you got to play within the rules, right? Like, back in the day, maybe there was no pass interference, so we can't now revisionist history change the past, because it's like, oh, well, that wasn't a thing then, but that was pass interference, so actually that doesn't count. Like, those were the rules at the time. That's what we're playing with. Before there was a 3-point line in basketball, we're not going to be like, hey, the final score actually wasn't 60-45 because 10 of those shots were behind what would have been the 3-point line. Like, that's not how it works. So to me, I'm like, you're held accountable based on the rules at the current time. But I do think that it's a good change that these guys can get paid and have, name, image, and likeness in that sense. If they want to sign someone's jersey and get paid, if they want to have an appearance at a Dick's Sporting Goods and get paid, yes, I'm all for that. I am all for that, just like I'm all for them working at Chipotle if they want to work while they're in college and on the team, right? Make your money if you can. But what I don't like is when people have essentially said, oh, college athletes don't get paid. Well, excuse me, those college athletes are getting a college degree, right? And that college degree, last time I checked, costs a lot of money. And these guys aren't there, a lot of them, on a full ride scholarship for their academics. They're there on a full ride scholarship to play football or basketball or whatever the sport is. So the way I see it, and again, please feel free to criticize me in the comments. We can have a conversation. I think the way I see it is they're essentially getting 2 degrees for the price of one. They're getting a free diploma essentially on the side by being a part of the football team. And that's no fault of their own. I'm not blaming the players. I think that it's complicated because being a college football player in this example is a job within itself. That is like being a full-time student. But your studies are in football. That's the degree that you're pursuing. You're playing college football to try to make it to the NFL, just like you're going to go to law school to try to be a lawyer. And guess what? A lot of people flunk out. A lot of people don't get through law school. And they decide 2 years in, like, man, this ain't for me. And I think that's the way college athletics should be treated. It should be treated like, hey, all right, I'm pursuing a degree in NFL. And 2 years in, if I get some injuries or I don't feel like I'm going to make it, then I quit the NFL and I apply academically to get into this school and try to pursue a degree. Because the real victims in this situation, from my point of view, are the kids, the actual students, the students that are there and dedicating themselves as full-time students. The ones that are there for a degree in, in communication, in broadcast journalism, that was my degree. But I'm saying those are the kids that I think are here, like they're the victims in sociology, all of those things, because those kids are putting all their time, their effort, they're up late night studying for those tests. They're studying for that college degree that they're pursuing to get into that craft in the future. A college athlete is more likely studying for the upcoming opponent than they are studying for the college degree. And we've had proof of this. Think about Kyrie Irving, Ben Simmons. Ben Simmons didn't even come back to school after basketball. And he got credits that first semester for the classes that he probably didn't even go to. That is so unfair to the John Doe that did go to those classes, that did study for those tests, that was there and did have a perfect attendance. So that's the way I see it. And like I said, last time I checked, those college degrees aren't free, right? That student that maybe didn't get a full scholarship to go to Ohio State or any school you want to name, well, that college student, if they're from out of state, they're paying like $70,000 a year. So that's the money, the way I see it, that these college athletes are getting paid. Because it's not like if they didn't have to go to the classes or weren't eligible to receive the diploma, then I would say, yeah, they're getting paid. Then I would say, yeah, they're getting paid. Then I would say they're not getting paid. Because I would be like, there's no, they're not, if they do their 4 years, they're not walking away with a diploma in football. So I would say they're not getting paid. But it's the academic side. And again, don't get me wrong. There are some guys that I do think are college football, basketball athletes that do also put in that time and the effort into their academics as well. Like, I'm not trying to say that they all don't, but we have proof of so many that don't, and it doesn't matter. Right? Are you telling me that, all these guys are academically eligible to play in the Rose Bowl, in the college playoff football, like college football playoffs? Like, when's the last time you heard of a starting quarterback, starting wide receiver, or starting safety, whatever, that was suspended in the playoffs because his grades weren't up to par? You ever think about that? Well, they're not getting suspended because they pretty much have a free pass to get through it. Take it from me that went to college at Illinois State University, not a very, very well-known athletics school. And even there, I would sit next to this kid that was on the basketball team, and he was getting like a 30 on the test. Now, I don't know. Maybe he aced all the other tests, but I'm just saying, I didn't hear about him getting suspended. I didn't see him worried about, flunking out and getting kicked out of school because his grades were bad. That's what I'm saying. These guys, and good for them. Again, I'm not blaming these guys and these players. Get yours. But I'm just saying the system, that's where it's flawed. And so the more we're creating this way of kind of allowing everyone to get their own way, especially the younger people get. Like those are the crucial years where you got to learn what the real world is like. You know, these guys now, they fail at a school, and they're, instead of working through it, their solution is, all right, I'll transfer. You know, like it's just like, that's not the way you're going to ever succeed in life. Like, even if you got a job somewhere and it's not all happy and jolly from the get-go, are you going to just quit that job and be like, all right, I'm quitting, I'm going to go try out for another job? Well, how are you going to ever move up the ranks like that? Like, sometimes you got to put your hands in the mud and stick through it to work your way up, to know what it's like to climb up the ladder of success. And I don't think we're setting these kids up for that. And they are kids. That's why I don't blame them. They're 18, 19-year-old kids. Even the guys right now that are like trying out for football, NFL teams, and maybe get cut and go back to college, I'm not blaming them. But this is, at some point, the adults in the room got to be the adults in the room. And you got to tell these kids, like, this is what you chose. Right? Like, and it just, the alarming part for me is that we're going younger and younger and younger. Not, I mean, maybe that's because I'm getting a little older and I'm old school. But I mean, hell, if I was a kid at 16 years old and someone at ESPN told me, like, hey, if you want, you can follow us around for all summer. It could be all summer. You could come and spend the summer interning at ESPN in LA and, you know, running prompter and doing these kind of things for us. At 16 years old, I do not think at all that my parents would have been like, well, is he going to get paid? Because ESPN makes a lot of money and he's pretty much working. No, I'm 16. Not everything is valued through money. Sometimes experience is more valuable than money. And that's, I guess, the point of this video, that I think there is more value sometimes to experiences than there is to money, especially and mostly when you're young. Because that's how you learn. That's how you grow and see how the world works. So hell yeah, I would have been taking an internship at ESPN at 16 years old for free and learning and meeting TV personalities and asking questions and having to be there early in the morning. And then, I mean, in today's day and age, people would have said, oh, well, you're putting the 16-year-old to work and the company makes billions of dollars and that's so unfair. No, that's life. That's life. And it's very fair. It's actually very helpful. And I would have been very thankful for that opportunity. Now, yes, that's not what we do as adults. And as adults, at that point, like when you're, into your 30s, 40s, yeah, sure. At that point, though, that's still on you. Then don't take that job. That's a job. And some people have to. And if they do, they do. And that's their choice, though. Right? But that's a choice that they have to live with. And that's cool. Make the choice. But there has to be some kind of limit to how young we're doing this. I mean, next thing you know, high school football players are going to start getting paid because parents are going to say, like, oh, they don't get a good opportunity. Like, or they're not getting paid, and the high schools are now getting attention and getting games on ESPN. All right, well, then don't go to that high school. Good luck. Let's see where your son's team's going to be on national TV. Like, these schools also do give these kids a platform, right? When, Oregon's playing on TV, people are watching, right? So I'm just saying there's a certain, give and take. And like I said, I'm not one of those people that's like anti-paying the kids or them making their money. No, not at all. But I think there's a balance, and we're really losing that balance. And that's how I feel about it. And this video I saw today on First Take, that was really alarming to me, because if we're going to start allowing, essentially, at this point, young men to, be allowed to make a decision and then take it back at the cost of somebody else's tough decision. Like, these families that are deciding between colleges, the kids are moving across country. Like, that's not an easy decision either. Right? And that's who's really getting hurt in this situation. So we'll see what happens here. I mean, it's almost August 30th. And if September 1st, I forget what the number he said, like nearly 1,100 NFL players that are going to get cut. If 300 of those get, college eligibility again and go back to college, and 300 players get cut, college athletes get cut because of this. That's alarming. And that's a mistake. And I think that is hurtful to those young men who also made a tough decision and now are having to live with the consequences of a system. I'm not going to blame, again, the NFL guys that didn't make it, but have to face the consequences because the system is favoring older guys who already made a tough choice and is allowing them to take it back at the cost of these kids' tough decision that they're living with. It's not like they're the ones that are changing their mind. They're just going to get cut because a guy that was just on the NFL team through preseason decided he wants to come back to school for his eligibility. Well, like, sorry, man, you left that eligibility back when you decided to go into the NFL. That's the way I feel about it. Let me know what you guys think in the comments. Please like, subscribe, all that good stuff. And I look forward to pumping out more podcasts here as we go. Talk to you on the next one.